Start the tape. This is the music session, the basis of what we do. My name is Gary Shoemake, and I'd like to introduce Ernie Kinney and Mike Seastrom. Music as what we do and what we use is very much and very just as important as the entertainment session that you just had before this one, and it's can even add to and enhance the same situation. Let me get my breath. And we'd like to start, I think, by having Ernie kind of demonstrate. He has one of the best records to show you the different type rhythms and different type things that we use, music that we use in our square dancing. Although there are different type rhythms, by that we mean sambas, sometimes waltzes, two steps, whatever. We apply them to our use at the same tempo. And we'll get into that a little bit more, but I'd like to turn it over to Ernie and let him elaborate on that a little bit. Ernie?
Okay, thank you. We went through this before you came. This was a record we put out a hoedown record a couple of years ago, and on the flip side of it, we put the different rhythms that we use, except for one, we didn't put a 6/8 rhythm, which is probably, in my estimation, the most comfortable square dance rhythm that there is 6/8. It's a regular marching rhythm, and but I do have some records that does have that rhythm, and we'll play that for you separately. But this is the same little song, and we used 2/4, then we played in 4s, and we did shuffle, and we did in Latin with a Latin flavor. We did it with a country rock flavor, and we did the same song with the waltz rhythm in 3/4. So listen, and we'll let this go through and see if you can recognize the difference. If you can't hear, please tell me. We have a volume control. This is 2/4. Guitar player had a ball doing this. See if you can identify the next one. next rhythm is used a little more in round dancing than square dancing. Anybody recognize that one? Thank you. Thank you.
Can't hear you.
I didn't do anything.
Turn the volume up.
Got the volume over there now. 1, 2, 3, 4. It stops. Something happened right in the middle of this thing here. We're just one turn below feedback. It'll be there. This is a 6/8 rhythm, and it is one of the rhythm, probably the rhythm that's liked best by the dancers to dance because it's very comfortable. So, this is kind of a modified 6/8. In programming our dances, whoa! Did it come back? It came back a little for a moment. In programming our dances, ordinarily, we should all consider the rhythms that we're using, the rhythm that we use in each singing call and how much we use that different rhythm. Probably the most criticized rhythm that I have heard dancers expound on is the shuffle rhythm or the songs played in fours. And some of our reviewers call that a three-legged dance, but that's not true. It's a good rhythm to use, and we have several records. We produce several records with the shuffle rhythm or the songs played in fours. Why? Why would I produce a record like that and then talk against using it at a dance? Because it sells. People buy them. And do you know why people buy them? It's closely related to the original song, the original tempo of that song, the original rhythm of that song, and I feel like I sound good doing it. That's why I buy it. And I'm not thinking of what the dancer's thinking. He doesn't really care most of the time, he or she, how good I sound. If they can understand me, they want to dance comfortably, and it's our job to select music that we sound good doing and they are comfortable dancing. That is your job as a square dance caller. And we must make it as comfortable for them as possible. They can dance all night. I don't want to send a dancer home saying, I'm so bushed, I don't know if I want to ever come back or not. Send a dancer home wanting to come back and dance again tomorrow night or day after tomorrow night. And we do this with music, with choreography, with our entire program. We do things like this. So be sure that we use the records. We call them upbeats or 2/4s or boom chucks or whatever you want to call them. I program most of my dances around those and use not more than one shuffle or 4/4 rhythm, song, and evening. They sound good, and some dancers like some of those songs, but most of them like to dance. Somewhere under here I've got a record. Now this is 2/4, and you will recognize the rhythm right away because it's the thing that you use most. So anybody can use that. And dancers like to dance to 2/4. They get up, they get high, and they go. We have some, what did I do with my questions? We had some questions taken while we were waiting. We will address those as we go through. I would like to say something about, we were asked about key. Most of the record companies, I know of no record company that puts the key of the song on the record. And the only reason I can think of for not doing that is somebody might not like that key and wouldn't buy it. So it would be a great help probably for the caller who's buying that record to have the key on it. However, for our record company, and I'm sure for most of the record companies, we try to not use any note below B flat, below middle C, and above B flat, below high C. So we try to record everything within that octave, and we feel like that is the norm. If we send you up on a record, it'll be a quarter note or something up to C or D above high C, above that B flat, or maybe a quarter note below. And so you can fake through it if you have to. If you can't reach that high, then you fake it or sing a harmony part below. As for the lady, the key for the ladies, I'll let Gary address that. I would address tempo for a moment, and then we can expound on that later. But most square dance records nowadays, the modern square dance records, are recorded around 130 beats per minute. You can vary that on your variable speed turntable one way or another. You can also, as you know, if you don't know, you can also vary the key that's in. If you speed it up, it gets higher. If you slow it down, it gets lower. So you don't want to slow a record down to the point that you lose the flavor of the song, or you don't want to speed it up to the point that you lose the flavor of the song. But I would venture to say that 9/10 of you, 3/4 of the time, slow a record down. Am I right? Slow it down to 44, 43 in that area sometime, most of the time. A lot don't. A lot, if it's 134 beats a minute, they go ahead and call it 134 beats a minute. And the dancer races through it. There's some songs that we record that require 132. If they require more than that, we don't do them. We usually record all of ours in 127. Gary said 128. But then you can speed it up a little if you want to, or you can slow it down a little if you want to. But that is the way that most record companies do the tempo of their records. We try to, some feel faster. Some of your shuffle songs feel fast to the dancer, don't they? I mean, you see them out there kind of jogging along like that. They feel faster, but really they're still 128, 129, 130 beats a minute. Most of them are just like that, if you'll count them. And I would address the quality of the vinyl is not being the fault of the record producer. It is not the fault of the record producer. Whether or not they're using a different type vinyl now, wax, I don't know. But they seem to be using less of it. And the records are getting lighter and thinner, and which is, I mean, you know, if you have to replace them every 2 weeks, fine. Mr. Shoemake, address that key for the ladies, please.
Thanks a lot. Again, to address the key for everybody, first of all, the reason that we don't particularly put and note the key that the record was cut in is exactly like what Ernie said. Each song that you cut, even though you may cut 3 songs in the key of G, the difference in those 3 songs is the range of them. It's not the key. Therefore, we don't necessarily want to scare you off because you've had a hoedown sometime that had a range that was way up here in the key of G, that particular song or singing call that had a range that was way up here, and you say, well, that's G is too high for me. I just can't use G at all. That's not true. That song is too high for you. It has too wide a range. And for that reason, most of us don't put the key on it. We'd rather you, at least when you're at the record shop or if you're tape service, if you're playing your tape service, give it a try before you really say, you know, this is not my key, because the difference of it is the range of each song, and they all vary. They all vary. Granted that there's some of them that's very hard to reach, and we try to, as Ernie said, we try to keep that under control also. But ladies, the problem, I guess that you would say, that we have with cutting records in keys of a higher nature for the ladies is very, very basically economical. If there were thousands of you out there, probably the market would bear that, and until that happens, probably it's going to be a problem for you all along, and you're going to have to search through and find the ones that you can use. Not fair, granted, but in the same token, the calling industry hasn't included you that well as we should have many years ago, by including you more so. And we hope that it gets better. That's the best we can say. But to be very honest with you, and basically it's just economical. Synthesizers was a question that we had here. I'll address that right quick, then I'll turn it over to Mike. The reason that many of us are using synthesizers in square dance music today is because synthesizers are computerized, many of them, and everything in the music business nowadays has become computerized. If you want your tempo to be 128.5, or if you want it to be 127.5, you can have it anywhere you want to, because they can program it so that the drum beats, and they do it with a computer. They don't have a drummer out there. They have a computer, and they punch it in, and at a certain time, if you want a little drum roll, they program that in. Everything is programmed in. The same thing with the computer. With the synthesizer, if you want a fiddle sound at this one spot, he can put a disc in the synthesizer, and at that certain spot, he can play the keys of a piano, but it plays a fiddle. It is so versatile and so unlimited and so, well, I can't say economical, because those gentlemen are paid well who understand that and are very good at it. But mainly that's the reason that all the music industry has gone to it, and it has such unlimited possibilities that they have just begun to scratch what they can do with it. And that's the reason that we are kind of experimenting with it also. We haven't got into it. I don't think any of the companies have got into it on a real strong, full-blown area or program with it. Maybe one or two, but for the most part, as far as Chaparral is concerned, we are experimenting with it a little, and but it has great possibilities, and that's the reason that we're looking at the sensitizer part. You have an example?
I think our gentleman back here a while ago was concerned with the moog sound, or this was recorded mostly outside of a guitar, and a steel guitar was on a Kurzweil keyboard. And all of the instruments, any instrument you want to, can be programmed into that computer and played back through the keyboard. So we can take our violin player and have him play into the computer, and then we can play back the notes that he plays. We can do the same thing with the guitar. And this is an example of one of the very recent records that we did that was done through the Kurzweil. This is the drum machine that Gary is talking about. I think we have a fiddle in here too. Fiddle in the background, and there's a harmonica there played on the same keyboard. Done with a guitar player and a keyboard player.
So all the music you heard on that record right there was done with two musicians, the guitar player and the keyboard player. The keyboard was playing the sounds you heard as a harmonica. It was also playing the sounds that you heard as a piano rhythm, all bass, everything. Everything was there through that machine. These machines are doing this now. The Musicians Union in Nashville is not too crazy about them, but they are very effective. With that, I'd like to let Mike get up and talk to you a few minutes on different types of music and this sort of thing. Mike?
Thanks, Gary. Basically, I'd just like to ask a few questions here. How many of you are technically trained in music? Technically trained in music? Raise your hand high. Technically trained, have studied music at some time or other in your life, whether it was in a band or in choir or chorus or glee club. Okay. All right. It's interesting, but far more than half of us in the room have not had technical training in the sense of music, do not understand the technical aspects of music that much, although we understand what we like to hear. We were all dancers prior to being callers, or most of us were anyway, and know what we like as a dancer, what we like to feel and hear as we dance along. So the technical terminology is important. The elements of rhythm, of harmony and melody is significant, but it's not absolutely critical that we understand all of these elements as we enter into calling. My contention is that once you're here, you ought to start looking back and finding out all that you can about these elements of music. There's a tremendous amount of articles and bookwork out there that is really available to you, whether it be the caller's text or whether it be Jim Mayo's books or whether it be articles that are independent of square dancing but that have to do to music. It behooves you to look into these so that you can provide more variety to your dancers and so that you can understand what you're hearing on the turntable. It's interesting that in the Times, the Los Angeles Times, this last Sunday edition, they had a big feature on Irving Berlin, and the fact that Irving Berlin turns 100 this May, quite a recluse as I understand, but he didn't read or write music. Yet this man wrote probably well over 1,500 songs in 6 Broadway shows. He probably has written more music than any American, and published more music than any American of our time. And yet he applied what he felt and to his understanding, translated what he knew and what he was creating on a piano that could write the music for him, and to secretaries who could write that music. So there is an ability to translate what you feel and what you hear to something that the dancers enjoy, and watching the dancers and their reaction to what you're doing, I think, makes a major difference. Something else I think that we need to take into account, not only with our music, but is timing. Timing is the relationship between the keywords of the square dance command and the dancing action measured in the beats of music. I think we all have to understand the elements of timing, particularly from the fact that it takes so many beats for us to issue a command, the command time. It takes so many beats for the dancer to react to that command. We have to take that into account. And then it takes so many beats for the dancer to execute that timing. And many times that dancer wants to put his foot down at a certain point in the music, and we're not giving him that particular beat to put it down. And I think that's something that we need to understand too. There's certain songs that you cannot ignore as a caller. You cannot ignore that point in the music, because your dancers, if you do, your dancers are going to want to put their foot down, and you're not going to give them the chance. And the dancers are going to say, I don't know why I didn't like that, but it didn't feel good to me. So it's something that's critical that you recognize as a caller. I think we need to develop. Each caller should develop a system of selecting music that works for them and allows them to learn a song and allows them to add variety to that piece of music, whether it be by varying the volume of the music, whether it be by adjusting the controls and using your music, your turntable as a graphic equalizer, or whether it involves the voice, the volume of your voice at certain points in the music. Just to put on a piece of music that's new out on rhythm. Nice piece of music, by the way. How many of you, when you put the record on the first time to listen to a piece of music, how many of you listen to the called side? Just raise your hand. How many listen to the music side? Okay. Let's put on the music. Kind of a country rock sound. Some of you would probably immediately say, no, this is not for me. I've got a whole case full of these right now. I don't need another one. Others say, no, most of those have drifted out of my case. I might need another one of these in my case. How many at this time would pick up the cue sheet and start to call this piece of music? Raise your hand. You pick it up and start to call. I think in most cases that's what many of you have adapted into your way of picking up music and doing. Although I think in some cases, let's put that back on again. I didn't even get my own copy of this yet. This is just the press. Anyway, you'd be calling along this about halfway through that music. Yeah, I kind of like this. I like the feel of this music. You're calling along with the cue sheet. And all of a sudden the middle break steps in. And you go, whoop. What happened? At that point in time, I imagine many of you would flip it over and turn on the called side and say, what happened there? And my suggestion is to you that, yeah, if you like that music and you're saying, yeah, that music agrees with me, then by all means turn that record over and listen to the guy on the other side. Chances are he's worked with that piece of music for quite some time, or at least has worked it with his dancers, and he has a knowledge of what that music's doing. So turn the thing over and use the other side. Listen to the other side of the music. And when you hit the other side of the music, listen to the ending, too, so that you got an idea of what's going on. But we're changing a little bit of that dancer feel. We're eliminating the upbeat there, and you're just getting the downbeat, and it produces a whole different feel. So as a caller, you should know what's going on there. Another record that's just out on a whole different feel. The option of an old standard classic, another rhythm record. There for left, I'm in love with you. Some of you are going to jump right on that thing and say, boy, but to call that takes a little bit different timing. Well, Ford Exchange. You're good at da-da-da-das, right? I figure it changes a bit. Some of you might be thrown at this point. If it's changing around here a little bit, flip it over and listen to the other side. Because often the call on the other side is going to give you the phraseology, the metering. So my contention is flip it over and listen to the other side of it. This caller presentation is really critical into how that piece of music feels. Okay? Any questions so far? I was Nevertheless, I'm in Love with You. Brand new out in Rhythm Records, available right down the hall. Okay? That's right. Ernie was just mentioned that the caller's interpretation of a piece of music is really critical. That whole presentation creates the feel or the mood of that music. And sometimes you can really destroy the feeling of that music by trying to call beyond it or over it or add too many beats.
If you happen to flip it over to get the caller's interpretation, and it happens to be Marshall Flippo, you don't have to listen long.
Right there, about 3/4 of the way down. Yeah.
Pulling the gun out of you.
That's right. Yeah, he does have a gun. Just stay low. Every once in a while, you put on a piece of music on the instrumental side. You say, my God, how am I going to call over that? How am I going to get a word in edgewise? My contention to you is don't. If that's a good piece of music, don't put it aside. That's a good piece of music. That makes dancers. Look around the feet here, and everybody's got their foot down. That makes you want to tap your foot. So my contention to you is don't call over it. Prompt it. Give those dancers that first beat. They want to put their foot down. You can take a piece of music to that, and it really adds a tremendous amount of flavor to your dance, but take a piece of music like that, and don't try to call over it. Side space, grand square. Reverse. Four ladies chain cross. Chain them back. Promenade. Just smile and tap your foot. Just say, God, isn't he calling great? But there is a lot of this music out there. It's good music. Boy, it makes those dancers want to dance. It adds a lot of variety to your program. So let the music do it for you when you got something like that. Don't lose that. Another piece of music out. This is a hoedown. It was out on Lamont, called the Arkansas Traveler. Dang, that makes you want to tap your foot a little bit. For me personally, it's a lot of music to call over. That fiddle in there conflicts with my voice. I feel like I can't get the commands straight across to the dancers. So it's my feeling that it's better to just cue this song. Just cue this as a pattern. Hold ladies chick. Roll away in circle. Roll a half step shake. Left down the back. Then a lot of left right. Just cue it. Dominate. You don't need all the pattern. Give them that music. You wouldn't want to do all these kind of tunes all night long, but it's a nice flavor to add to your program. That's Lamont Records, Arkansas Traveler. What's that? It is a funny intro on that. No, actually, because I've used this as a contra. 2, 3, now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. So once again, when you're listening to a record like that on the instrumental side, if there's some instruments in there that really conflict with your voice, depending upon the pitch of your voice, if there's an instrument that conflicts with that, recognize that. Sometimes you can dial that instrument out a little bit using your treble and your bass controls as a graphic equalizer. But other times it's just a little bit too much and it's pleasing to the dancer. Give that dancer that piece of music and let them have that piece of music there. Okay? Just one more. Every once in a while it comes out a record that's kind of unusual enough that when you put it on first you might say, oh, God, I can't do that. How many are tempted to just pick up the needle right now? Throw it right back in the case. I agree. Dancers are just having a ball with this song. They love it. How many use this song? Hot, hot, hot on English Mountain. Sometimes I think to properly interpret this song as a caller, you need to actually go out and buy the 45. Go out and pick out the 45. Now, it may not have a lot to do with the song, but the presentation, as it was originally designed, may have a lot to do. This is another one that you can, if you'd like to, if you don't identify with that song at all, prompt this record to your dancers and let them dance. The syncopation, the 8th notes, the 16th notes, the 32nd note, around the beat gives that dance the feel. In order, they're going to put their feet down, but they're going to sway, and they're going to have all their hands and their arms moving. Just a little bit something different, huh? How would I call that? Well, there's two ways to call it. You can call it like the original song, like in done real well on the other side. I guess I can flip it over and listen to the caller. So, yeah, this is Phil Kozlowski. All right. Not exactly like the original song.
8 miles, circle left. Let's take a holiday. We're gonna sail away. Come on, let's go to the island. Man, start by your right one time around tonight. Alabama left, weave that ring. Ole, ole. You turn to left, Alabama, come back and promenade. They're dancing and singing down in the Caribbean. Ole, ole, hot, hot, hot. It's promenade.
Now you might feel as a caller that I can't really feel like I'm comfortable calling that type of song. So once again, I say the problem. Hey man. Turn up the bass a little bit. Give your dancers that feeling. Ben Star, Mon. Excuse me, hey, Mon. Drop that record through. because it's a type of a song that you wouldn't normally do. If you feel that it has a place in the variety of your program, don't shut it down because it's not the kind of thing that you would sing along with. If it's a good piece of music and it's something you feel your dancers might have a little bit of fun with, use it in there for variety, and don't ever play down the aspect of just prompting it or cueing your song through. Okay? Okay, I'll turn it back over to you if there's not any questions right now.
Very good, Mike. In all of these, even starting with the demo record that Ernie had, the thing that comes to my attention with all of these different records, all these different rhythms and everything, let me see your demo record. Just no? I'm sorry. I didn't win or I'd pay you. I want you to feel the difference. I think this one. Does that feel slow to you? Does that feel slow? Yeah. You know why it feels slow? Because the musicians are playing slower notes, but the rhythm is still the same. Very front? Okay. Does that sound faster to you? They're the same. They're exactly the same. The rhythm has changed, but the tempo is the same. Now, the reason that I wanted to bring that out is this particular record that came out is a shuffle or 4/4 rhythm, and a gentleman, I called it one time, and a gentleman says, "Boy, that was really nice, but I've tried it, and I can't speed it up enough to do it. Boy, when I speed it up, where it's comfortable, the dancers just hate it." Well, the problem is, it don't need to be sped up. If anything, it needs to be slowed down a little bit. The rhythm is there, you know. But here he was, he's pushing up about here. Yeah. He says, I have to get it up to about 70 before it'll really, Don't always go on everything that realize that rhythms give you a different feel. Rhythms, not tempo. They give you a different feel of music. Sometimes it feels like it's so slow and so draggy, but actually it may be a little bit fast. In some cases, to make a shuffle rhythm type record work, you have to slow it down as opposed to speed it up. And in fact, most cases, I think that you get a better feel of it. We'll show you a different thing that by the way, someone suggested that we give the names of the records as we done. That last one was "The Cowboy Rides Away" on Cloverleaf. I want to show you the nice thing that Chinook done with this record here. It's actually 2 songs in one, and if you do some duets sometimes, this is really nice. One caller can take one part, the other caller can take the second part, and it really has a nice effect. And these guys have done a good job with it. Start with the instrumental, and we'll point that out. Then excuse me. Still up on 50. Yeah, a little counter melody. There's 2 songs played here. One is "Play Me Some Rag," and the other is "Play a Simple Melody." One caller sings one part, the second caller sings the other part. And can you feel the difference in it? Very nice contrast. Very nice contrast. It just really works good. And we show you what we mean when the Chinook boys do it here together, and they do a very good job of it too.
Side space, grand square. Music will be, send your play, come on,
Use that classical match, my to some sweet.
Can you hear both parts?
Drag.
Isn't that a nice contrast?
If you can play from the top, be a two-handed jump. Be sure to swing that lady around in a promenade. And that's because some say I love to listen to rag.
Now that's a lot of effort, and may not be the most optimal for you to use by yourself, but on occasions when you're working with another caller, well, you can't get any better than that. That's just really nice, and the dancers really appreciate it. The number on that is Chinook, is brand X802, Chinook 082. 082. 76 trombones, what was that?
It was TNT.
TNT 250. Here's a song that's been out for a while, and we were talking about what a song says to you. This song says great things to me. It says Dixieland first, and I'm like Bill Peters. I like Dixieland. I like Dixieland, boy. And like Mike said, the dancers feel this. Boy, they feel it. But it said more than that to me. It said a little bit more than that. I said, this is 20s, 30s. This is my concept of 20. What 20s and 30s, way back before my time. But yeah, right. Good music, very good music. This said to me, Rudy Valley. This said Rudy Valley to me. Never heard of him. So, to give you a little idea about the way I work this, I play the Dixieland. Let them play it. Little Dixieland music. Come on, band now. Circle that. Play that Dixieland. Play that Dixieland. Get them feeling it, okay? Right on true. But when it comes up to the break, she driving me crazy to say, wow. I spend $1 million on megaphones. It said to me Rudy Valley, so I give a little Rudy Valley on that last thing. It's a little different, but the dancers, hey, what was that? And the next thing you know, they're kind of, hey, all right, did you see that? That's all right. So, what it says to you. Right. Yeah. You can do it. You can do it that way too. You don't have to have it. Here's a nice, really nice piece of music that come out on cross country, Chicago country, cross country, Chicago country. Beautiful noise. What I said, it's really fun to dance. The dancers love this one, especially the ending. It's got the neatest ending on it ever was. Just really neat. Does something different. There again, it's the piano and the bells. You hear the bells and the synthesizer. It's all there. Boy, it really feels good. The ending on it. That's it. Isn't that a nice feel? And the dancers say, wow. That's music, ladies and gentlemen. That's good music. That's not, excuse me. Sure, Mike.
just to say something about that piece of music, even if that piece of music is not your cup of tea, even though you don't feel like you want to be a Neil Diamond up there singing that song, or you feel that's not your style, don't put down that piece of music. You prompt it. Use it for your dancers, and just turn on the music. Give your commands as you need it, and when they're appropriate, and let the dancers have that music.
Yeah, it's so much you can do with it. The latest couple of things that are out, and to give you probably the most drastic example of synthesizer and drum machines and everything computerized, this piece of music right here was all done, every bit of it. Only one musician, I'll put it that way. One musician who was also the computer operator, okay? He computerized everything. It was digital. A rhythm called New Attitude. It's done in the studio. Everything was done with synthesizer, computers, drum machines, one man. Excellent. Excellent. And if you think the dancers don't feel that, here again with a different rhythm. Right. Now one of the things that I've seen some of the guys doing before they get to do a song like this, they say, watch me, look up here. Now get your hand going, okay? When you weave in the ring now, this is what you do. Get your finger up, get your hand going, okay? When you have the hips promenade, thighs, get your finger up. Index finger, please. Yeah. Around here is the arm, yeah. But that's a excellent piece of music, and little things that you can do with it to get the dancers into it and make them feel. They really feel that music, and they really like to get into it. If you get into it with them, then you're winning. You get them on your side. Let's see. Any other questions that we needed to cover? Did we cover most of them? Synthesizer. Okay. Why don't we, at this time, open it up to questions that we can use the microphone, please, if you will. And if you have a question that you would like to ask, please state your name and where you're from and the question.
Rich Gearman from Spreckles, California. It's not so much a question as a statement. I've noticed that there hasn't, I don't think I've ever found a label that didn't have at least one singing call on it that there was no way you could actually do the singing call with the rhythm and timing and interpretation that the caller recorded it with if you expected the dancers to get through with it. A lot of the time you'll have to alter the phrasing and the delivery of the commands to suit the dancer's timing rather than the feel of the music. What I find most helpful a lot of the time is when I get a new record, I'll take it and I'll slow it down to about 33. Listen to exactly what's there in the music, and then go through the lyrics on the sheet, match the lyrics to what the music is actually saying. There are a lot of songs that they've got a lot of extra phrasing and words and fill-in stuff that just really doesn't have any business being in there. And if you pick and choose your music and your interpretation of the lyrics to fit what's actually on the music, you'll have a lot better timing, your delivery. It will feel better. It will be a lot solider of a production than if you just try to do it the way the caller on the record does it.
Very good. Thank you.
Ryan Murdoch, North Vancouver, British Columbia. Living on a border city, we interact very frequently with our friends in the United States, and it is a custom at large festivals to do the national anthems. To obtain those records sometimes is difficult, or there's a mad scramble. Have any of the record producers entertained the thought of producing on a square dance label the national anthems of Canada, United States. Possibly our friends from down under also might like to have a record that would consist of 2 on one side, 2 on the other, but it would certainly save the mad scramble at these large festivals of running around looking who can sing, who has a copy of the Canadian national or American national anthems. And my second question is, would you care to comment on the use of volume control, stereo choruses, and graphic equalizers in today's music?
Yeah. First of all, I'm on my way in the studio. I'll cut that record probably first thing in the morning with the national anthem. Now, is that available on some of the other special effect records? That's a good idea. Probably there'll be several of them in the next month or so. It's a very good idea. To comment on the choruses, I'll start with the choruses first, okay? Choruses enhance, in my opinion, some parts of singing calls. I think a chorus can be used very effectively by a caller because it gives a sound, a voice texture sound of someone singing with him. These, in my opinion, work best in singing calls that are when you have a long sustained note, then it fits good there. To use it when you have a several notes or a choppy area of it, I think it kind of interferes with it. Again, these are my personal opinions. I've heard some people use them on patter, so yeah. But let's see now. What was the graphic equalizer, and what was the other one, Brian? Volume control. Volume control can be overused also. With me personally, it's become unconscious. I use it. I use it sometimes and don't even know it, and it possibly could interfere with, or could maybe I would say irritate some dancers. But it has become just a sixth sense with me that when I am not giving a command, I automatically give a little bit more music. And yes, as a matter of fact, I do. I have a callus on the thumb right there for that. A graphic equalizer, I think, is a new tool that we have, and excuse me, and it has great potential, very great potential, if used right. Again, all of these things can be overused, and they can be very badly abused. A graphic equalizer, if you have a song that doesn't have enough bass track, rhythm track in it, you can enhance that with a graphic equalizer. You can bring out a lot of it. If it has, if the fiddle, now this is what in the business what we call the mixing part of it. If it hasn't got a good mix, if the fiddle is a little bit shrill to your ears, maybe it's a little heavy, maybe it's a little irritating to you, you can take the high side of that and you push it down, and you can control it. In effect, you can almost remix that record to your liking and to the sound that feels better in that hall. And halls will change this. The same hall, you can play the same record in one hall, and it will have a different feel to you, a different sound to you when you go into the next hall. And the graphic equalizer can enhance it in that particular hall. Any of you, would you guys like to comment on any of that? Yeah.
I mean, it's a great tool. It's just a matter of being able to use it, and I think you need a lot of work at home in practicing with records so that you know what your graphic equalizer does. The more sophisticated types, we do have a limited graphic equalizer, as I was saying, right on our set, and I think that's something you can use right handy, and you've got a good ability to, as Gary was saying, adjust depending upon the sound of the hall.
Next question. We'll have to move right along, too, because it's almost lunchtime. Go ahead.
Mary Lou Ash from Elko, Nevada, and I'd like to supplement your answer to the lady caller that said, what about the key for ladies? It's incumbent upon any caller to learn the tool, and Jim Mayo covered this very well yesterday in his session. And I had no formal training in how to use my voice, although I had been an instructor in other areas. I have no problem with key because my voice is mostly lower than most men's when I start singing. So I went to a singing coach and discovered that not only can I sing low, I am also a soprano. Never use it when I'm calling, of course, but I learned to use my tool. And the young man that I bought records from initially had a master's in music from the University of Utah. And I said to him one day, I would love to do this record, but I can't get there. He said, harmonize. And that's the answer.
Find the harmony, right. Yeah. Bob.
Hi, Gary. Testing. Oh, Bob Johnston, Buena Park, California. I don't believe you mentioned it, but it sure isn't unfair to cheat and play the call side of a record like Play Me Some Rag. You work that out, and you can be just darn near as good as they can, and at the end of it you say, there you have 5 of the most well-known international, well, 6 counting me, you know. But it's great. It worked great.
Very good. Very good.
Jim Davis, Saginaw, Michigan. In preparing for a dance, when you put your records together, I personally might pick out 12 of my singing calls that I might want to pick from. And I will, after I set them out, look for the bassier ones to use at the beginning of the program, and I like to use higher pitched records at the end of the program, because I find that music itself, if you start low, you're going to build a crescendo to begin with. You're looking for building on your program as the evening goes. I find that as I start low key singing calls at the beginning of the night, it helps me to build my program, and it kind of builds me up as well as the dancer. I think if I started with a high one at the beginning and finished my dance with a low one, I would be pulling myself down and the dancer down the whole evening.
That's a very good point. Plus, you know, the reason that the very professional and opera singers spend hours preparing for their show or their presentation is so that their voice is warmed up, so to speak, for this presentation. And you'll find that this same thing happens as you first start out with the lower key songs. It's easier for you to do that. As your voice becomes warmed up and the more you use it, then it becomes easier also for you to hit these higher ones up here. So that's a very good point.
Okay. One comment on the mic control. If you're using a mic control, and you see especially a lot of the gentlemen out in the squares who are sticking their finger in their ear, adjusting their hearing aids, that's a key to you. You're overusing it. I don't have I have a volume control on my mic that I do not use, but I have a lot of people, a lot of the gentlemen who are hard of hearing, who do not have the hearing aids that will cancel bad sounds or different volumes, will comment about this. A lot of times, I think perhaps they don't comment on it sometimes because they're bashful to tell that particular caller that he's overusing his mic.
The main thing to do when you're going to be working a volume control is like anything else. Set your peak at where you're going to be working it. You're not going to open it up all the way very many times, but as you roll it a quarter of a turn, you should have it peaked here so that it does not become irritating to your dancers out there, regardless of when you use it. And when you roll it back, then of course they can feel the music as maybe not necessarily hear it. But it's a good idea to make sure that your peak volume is leveled out so that you're not as we say, melting all the wax in their ears as it goes through. Okay. Next gentleman, please.
Art Daniels from Los Angeles. I hope it's on. I tend to gravitate to the romantic ballad type of singing call. My son takes care of the upbeat tunes, and you neglected to mention the last one. It was a beautiful number, and I'd like to get the name of it, please.
The last one was Beautiful Noise. Is that the one that we...
It was a slow rhythm.
Let me see if this is the one. That one? That's Beautiful Noise, and it's done by Breeze Graham, and this is Cross Country, which is Chicago Country, is one of their labels, okay? And the number on it is CC509. Question.
Railroad Bill Bar, West Haven, Connecticut. There is an LP album out called National Anthems of the World. I don't know the label, but it's an LP. Has about a dozen on it.
National Anthems of the World. Good.
Hello? Yes, there's an LP album called National Anthems of the World. But it's a 33 and 3rd RPM, of course. And it has about a dozen or more.
Of the various?
Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Bill. Ernie would like to say something, and we're going to kind of break for lunch here.
I would like to make one statement in closing. In choosing music to call, please don't just put the record on and listen to the music and see if I can sing it or see if it sounds good to me. Put the record on and see if you can dance to it. First of all, see if your dancers are going to be able to dance to it. Who cares what a beautiful song it is or how it sounds if they can't find any place to put their feet in the song, you know? So, please, regardless of how you feel that you will sound with this record, if you want to do it at an after party and sing the song, fine. But if it doesn't have something for the dancer to get into, please don't choose it.
I'd like to thank Mike Seastrom and Ernie Kinney, and you, of course, for being with us this morning. Sorry you were all so early.